Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am doing a video on the books I read in 2022. So I'm going to be doing my books in order from like worst to best, I guess is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to say like the book, the author, the number of pages, and how long it took me to read, and then obviously the rating I gave it overall. My goal for 2022 was to read 20 books, and I read 21 books. So this first book I no longer have, so I'll put a picture right here, is Unsolved Enigmas by Sam Pillager. It was about 224 pages. I don't have how long it took me to read it because I thought this book was absolutely awful. I got it from Barnes & Noble's for like $8, thank gosh, but I gave it a 1 out of 5 because it literally was just terrible. I hated the way it was set up and like how each chapter was and each section was. It was not a book that I would ever recommend reading. So that's our worst to start. So then we have my next lowest rated book, which is Pennsylvania Oddities. I have it as an ebook, so I'll just put the little picture there. The author is Marlon Brezzi. It was around 164 pages. And it took me 4 hours and 10 minutes to finish. That is very long, especially for me, which I believe is because it moved very slow and was kind of convoluted. I gave that a 2.5 out of 5 rating. It was interesting, but I felt like I could just do the research on my own and find more interesting things. So that's my second lowest. Okay, the next book I have is True Crime Pennsylvania by Patricia Martinelli. It is 131 pages. It took me 2 hours and 16 minutes to read, and I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was good, but kind of like the Pennsylvania Oddities, I felt like there weren't that many interesting things, or just the story itself, I felt like didn't keep me engaged at all. My next book is Unexplained, Unsolved, and Unsealed by Gerald Burns. It was 54 pages, so it was a short read. It took me 27 minutes, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I felt like there were a lot of cases that you already would have heard of if you're into that kind of genre, so it didn't take me long to read because I was like, I already know this, and it was kind of, I wish I wouldn't have just bought the book and I would have bought a sample to realize that I already knew most of the cases in it. But it's possible that if you aren't like into that sort of genre, you might not know any of them, but I knew all of them. So it wasn't that interesting to me. He does have like 20 other volumes, I think, of it. Like this was volume 1. But I also just didn't like his style of writing, so I wouldn't buy the other volumes either. My next 3.5 is kind of similar in the way of like I already knew it, was The Woman in the Strongbox by Maureen O'Hagan, one of those two. It was 55 pages. It took me an hour to read, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I actually already knew the case, and I didn't know that when I was reading it. It was part of Prime Reading, and so since I have Amazon Prime, it was free, which I was happy that it was free because I already knew the case. But it was interesting, and the way she wrote it was really well, and I felt like it went into a lot of detail. And there were things that I didn't know in it about the case, but the actual main case itself I had already heard of, which is why I gave it a 3.5. That's not their fault that I already knew it. My Hero Academia Volume 27. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this author's name. It's like, I'll just put the text up there. It's 184 pages, and it took me 34 minutes to read because obviously it's graphics. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I have read some of the other My Hero, which we'll get into, and I felt like out of all of them, this one just I didn't enjoy it as much. I did love watching it over, I read it first and then I watched it. I did love watching it kind of over reading it, but not terrible, not my favorite of the volumes that I've read is basically it. But yeah, so that's this one. I can hold it up so you can see the cover. The next book I don't own anymore. I did have a physical copy, but I didn't like it, so I got rid of it. Was Blonde Hair, Blue Eyes by Karen Slaughter. one of those two. It was 76 pages. It took me 55 minutes to read, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. It wasn't terrible. It was a short novel, which I liked. But for a fictional true crime, or for a fictional crime story, it's not true crime because true crime makes it true. She goes into very gory details. I more just didn't like it. The plot of it was really neat. It was, I think, based off a true story. But I just didn't like how it ended. I didn't feel like it ended well. Not in the way of, like, it ended kind of on a cliffhanger, which is fine with me, but I didn't like the, like, setup to the end, to the cliffhanger type thing. That was the first book I read in 2022, so it's, like, kind of still in my brain, but not as much. But my app that I keep track of them all on, Bookly, I rated it a 4 out of 5. There's certain things I can remember of, like, what the story was, but it just wasn't too interesting to me. Next, I have 3 books, all by the same author, 𝓂𝒹𝒾𝒶. Sure. The first one I read was The Pirate. It was 61 pages, 43 minutes, and I gave that a 4 out of 5. It was interesting. For a short story, it was neat, but I felt like I wasn't, like, I was paying attention to it, but not as much as I probably should have been paying attention to it. If that makes sense. Like, it was, I read it and it was interesting, but it wasn't like, oh my god, this was the best thing I've ever read. Next book by him that I read was The Brick Slayer. All of these, why I have them, even though I didn't really 100% like the first one, was because his 6-book collection is on Prime Reading, so I just got the collection to read. Brick Slayer was 41 pages. It took me 30 minutes to read. Also 4 out of 5. It was good. It was definitely more interesting than The Pirate. But it kind of was so short, I felt like it was rushed, if that makes sense. Like, because it was only 41 pages, I felt like to get to the crime, and then the after was like, here we are, here's the crime. Like, it moved very quick. And the last one by him, which I think was my favorite that I've read so far, is Rampage. It was 60 pages, took 42 minutes to read, and also 4 out of 5. I believe this is the one, now I've read so many of his, I feel like I'm lost. I believe this is the one of the, like, random spree killer, which I found very interesting, the way he set it up and how he did each chapter. But I still only gave it a 4 out of 5 because there's other books that I've found more interesting. It could be that I just don't like short stories as much and that I actually want a book to be longer. Is Forensics by David Owen. It was 138 pages. It took me an hour and 17 minutes to read. It was good. Kind of like the other ones. I love his setup. He did, like, each case separately. He broke each page up, which was really nice. But again, a lot of the cases I already knew. But it was still interesting to read in the way he broke it up. Is National Parks Mysteries Volume 1. I have that in an ebook. It is by Steve Stockton. It was 176 pages. It took me 2 hours and 30 minutes to read. That one was super interesting because I do find all the disappearances and things and the craziness that happens in National Parks wild. I bought his other 2 volumes because I liked it so much. Were there certain parts that were more boring than others? Yes, which is why I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5, but I still really enjoyed it, obviously enough to buy the 2 other volumes. But definitely a recommendation if you find all the weird things that happen at national parks, like, you want to know more. This one I think is, like, broad. Volume 2 is in California specifically. I can't remember what Volume 3 is, but it's another, like, specific area one. I'm about halfway through Volume 2 so far, and I really like it. I think I like Volume 1 better, but that's just, you know, it could be the area that he's talking about. So I have 3 more 4.5 out of 5s. These 3 specifically aren't in any order. I'm just going to go in order by volume, because I don't know that I could put one over the other. First I have is My Hero Academia Volume 1. I give this a 4.5 out of 5. It's 192 pages, and it took me about an hour to read. I think I like, obviously I like the first book to buy more of the series and get fully into it. I enjoyed it. I like how, because I also watch the anime. Where is it? He does little insert things in here that obviously aren't in the show, of like how he created the characters and things, which I find interesting. But yeah, it was good. Not my favorite of all the volumes though. And then this is the front and a little bit more. Then I have volume 2, another still good but not my favorite one. It's the cover. Volume 2 is 208 pages and it took me also about an hour to read. Volume 3, which I definitely liked probably more than the other two, because this is where action starts to pick up, but still not my absolute favorite. This is the cover. This has 192 pages and it took me 37 minutes to read. Lastly, my favorite 4.5, which I don't have the book up here and I don't really want to walk downstairs and go get it, is Fantastic Beasts. It was an illustrated copy. It's like huge. Not the like film, like, how do I explain this? The literal book of Fantastic Beasts that like explains each beast and everything like that, not the like screenplay. It is by J.K. Rowling. It was 144 pages. It took me an hour and 14 minutes to read. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was really neat to see, like, it have a description and then like a drawing of the creature. Even if we've already seen it before, they still did drawings like if Newt had written it. I found it very interesting. I didn't give it a 5 out of 5 because I felt like it left kind of a lot out. I have a different book called Bestiary, which is basically Fantastic Beasts, but a little bit different, of like it shows where, it has like where you'd see it in the movies and blah blah blah, because it's not supposed to be like it's written by Newt. But I definitely really liked it. Love the pictures. The other thing is, this is gonna sound dumb why I gave it a 4.5 because of this, but it's like this big. Like, it's huge, so if you wanted to take it somewhere and read it, you literally couldn't. But it's neat to have, and I did enjoy reading it. Now, we're going to move on to my 5 out of 5s. I have quite a bit. First, I'm going to start with Sharkpedia. It's by Discovery Kingdom. It's 128 pages. It took me an hour and 15 minutes to read. This book I really enjoyed. I love sharks. There was a lot of stuff that I already knew, but there was a lot of things I already didn't know. It is written in the way for a child. It is set up like a children's book. But like, I'd say like a middle school, elementary school level of like, they're using big words and they have pictures. It's not cartoon style. But I enjoyed it because I love sharks. Obviously, my goodness, didn't plan that. But I really enjoyed this book. I do still have it, but I have it packed away in my attic for, like, I'm not going to keep it on my bookshelf because I'm not going to pick it up and reread it, but I don't want to get rid of it because I did really like the book. This is My Hero Academia Volume 4. I give this a 5 out of 5. Let me breeze through and remember what happens here. Ooh. This is one of my favorites because it's the sports festival, which I really enjoyed. Here, I'll hold up the cover. And I felt like I really enjoyed this because I got to see every character in Class 1A, and like actually use their powers. We've kind of seen it before, or quirks. We've kind of seen it before, but this is really the first one where you see it total. This is My Hero Academia Volume 4. It's 192 pages. It took me 30 minutes to read. Again, just pictures. It doesn't take me that long to read just pictures. But yeah, I have My Hero Academia Volume 28. And this is the cover. This one, holy crap, was it intense is the word I'd put it. And I felt like I really enjoyed this one because of it being intense. I felt like this was the first time that I really got so overwhelmed in a good way. But so that's how it ended up with a 5 out of 5. It is 184 pages. It took me about 30 minutes to read as well. Let me show you this amazing picture in here. Where is it? I literally had just passed it. But it's a lot of action. and craziness. I know the next volume just gets even better. I haven't read them yet, only because I do watch the show, but I wanted to watch these before I watched the show, or read these before I watched the show. Here is this beautiful picture. But yeah, so this one, amazing. Obviously, don't read manga out of order. I have them out of order because I watched the show, so I can skip from 4 to 27 because I've seen it. I do own them. That's a lie. I own like up to like number whatever, and then 27 on. I'm in the midst of buying the in-between ones. My next 5-star is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I am working on rereading the Harry Potter books. It's just taking me a while. By J.K. Rowling. It is 309 pages, and I don't have how long it took me to read it because I didn't own my app yet. I do have my little tabs for colors. I don't remember what the colors mean. I should have wrote that down. I have like tabs in here for, I used to read the book aloud to Denise so I'd bookmark things in whatever to read aloud to Denise. Yellow was things I want to come back to. Orange are quotes I like. Purple is things that are different in the book than they are in the movies. So my video cut out partway through my favorite book. It is Gone at Midnight by Jake Anderson. It was 323 pages and it took me 5 hours to read. It is the story of Lisa Lamb, and I just loved the way he presented the book. He would do all of the theories about it, but in that he would be very courteous to her. Like, he talked about her mental health and how that could have been a factor, and then he went into his own mental health and how it affected him, and he was never accusatory or any other theories he came up with. Even if he might not have agreed with them, he wasn't overly opinionated, which I appreciated. A lot of times you will get opinions like that in stories that have never been solved. So there's the front. But out of all 21 books I read, this one, by far, favorite. I would put this, like, and I've kept it, even though I finished it, because I would reread it over and over and over again. So yeah, so those are the books that I read in 2022. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.